What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to another pregame prediction video. This is Week 2's matchup between the 1-0 Dallas Cowboys and the 1-0 New York Jets. Let's jump on in.
Prescott, touchdown. Throw, look at the middle, sacked again by Parsons again. CD Lamb, was he down? They say no for now, and he's into the end zone.
Thank you for stopping by, and be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content. Well, guys, the elephant in the room, no Aaron Rodgers. And I want to just briefly talk about it. Obviously, I want to play the best, and whatever team we're playing, I want to play them at their best. And so that is so unfortunate. More than a Cowboys fan, I'm a football fan. And so to see someone like Aaron Rodgers go down, it's just devastating. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. And I honestly, I don't know if we ever will be able to wrap our heads around something like that. But man, my best to Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how he'll continue. I don't know what's next for him. I just can't believe, I can't move forward and believe that's the last time we've seen of him. That's my opinion. I think he needs to go out not like that. But again, I have no idea. He's given us some incredible matchups over the years, obviously. And I'll be your unbiased and realistic Cowboys fan again. He owns us. He owns the Dallas Cowboy. And he owns AT&T Stadium. I mean, that man is undefeated in that stadium. And I was just really excited to play him. And I think that it was a really good matchup. And for the first time, it would have been something special to see the Cowboys beat him at AT&T Stadium. But other than that, let's move on. That's all I have to say about Aaron Rodgers, because the Jets, all in all, still a really good team. Still a really good, solid team. And kudos to the Jets and their coaching staff, man, to being able to find a win on Monday night after all of that. I have no idea how they did it. Obviously, they got a lot of help from Josh Allen. And we'll kind of talk about that, because I know Josh Allen threw some interceptions and he turned the ball over. But, a lot of that goes back to how the Jets played him. So kudos to that New York team. I have a lot of respect for the Jets for finding a way to win and beating a quality team like the Buffalo Bills. But let's go and jump on in with this all-time record here. The Dallas Cowboys are 7-5 overall against the New York Jets. Can you believe that? This is only going to be the 13th matchup between those two teams. Incredible. Just insane stat. But a little bit of negative news here, a little bit of a negative fact. But the last time the Dallas Cowboys played the New York Jets was in New York. And I know you guys remember this one. The Cowboys were going into this game 3-2. And most notably, the New York Jets were 0-4. And stuff hit the fan really quick. Long story short, the Jets won that game. They won their first game of the year. Still embarrassing to this day. But hey, man, that's a Jason Garrett special. Playing down to your opponent. Thank God we don't have those days anymore. Anyways, Jets won 24-22. That's the last time we played them. Moving on, this game is the Dallas Cowboys home opener. Let's go, baby. And I can confidently say that there is in fact a home field advantage for the Dallas Cowboys. And that developed last year because the Cowboys are 8-0 when they play at AT&T Stadium. I never thought we would get to a point where that would be a place that we can call home and win definitively. But now in the Mike McCarthy era, it has become exactly that. So the Cowboys were 8-0 last season, and they're starting the season here against the Jets. But let me just say this before we jump into the defense and the offense like we always do, and thanks again for watching. If the Cowboys lose this game, look, the Jets are a tough team, man. They're a solid team. They got a great defense. We're going to jump into that. But it would be the ultimate head scratcher, in my opinion. And I would seriously begin to develop doubts about whether this team can, in fact, put it all together. Because, like I always say, and you guys, if you've been subscribed to me since my first season here, I always say that good teams take care of the teams they should, but great teams do it on a consistent basis. This is a game where you should take care of the Jets. Obviously, they're without a big weapon like Aaron Rodgers, but they still got a really good defense. So I think this is going to be a tough fight. I think it's going to be a physical fight. I think it's going to be a solid game. But all in all, we match up well against them. We got a great defense. We have supposedly a solid quarterback that can lead us in that offense. This game should be a win. Now, I predicted it back in May when that season prediction video came out, and you could still watch it. But I predicted a win, even then knowing that Aaron Rodgers was going to play. And if Aaron Rodgers was playing, I still feel pretty confident that the Cowboys would win. But let's jump on in. Let's talk about this defense and how well it matches up against the Jets' offense. The Dallas Cowboys had 7 sacks, 2 interceptions on Sunday Night Football against the Giants. Obviously, they're a dominating defense. We know that. But I think a lot of the weather and the rain really played into that. And the Giants, man, like, they're not a bad team. They're a good team. They're going to figure things out. And I say that because we've been there before. So before we go off and, start tooting our own horn and saying, Cowboys this, Cowboys that, let's remember, we've been there where the Giants have been. Like, laying an egg week 1. We've been there, man. We've been there so recently. That happened last year against the Buccaneers. And then just off the top of my head, Cowboys and 49ers, 2012. What was that game, right? So the Giants, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but they're going to be fine. They got a talented team. Everything that fans and analysts said before leading up to the game, they're correct in the fact that the Giants got better and they're going to move forward. So anyways, all that to say, the Cowboys had 7 sacks, 2 interceptions. I think a lot of the weather played into that, but this is still a dominating defense. And they are playing an offensive line with the New York Jets that's less talented, less efficient than what we played with the New York Giants. So put 2 and 2 together. I don't know if we're going to get 7 sacks again. I wanna lower your expectations. It is the NFL for a reason, right? Like these people, they're professional athletes. So to go out there and think that we're gonna blow someone out again, 40-0, it's very unrealistic. I'm not gonna outrule it because anything can happen, but just temper your expectations a little bit. But it's really hard to not say that they're going to have a similar day against the Giants, or against the Jets, sorry. Like I said, with the Giants with the Jets having a deteriorating offensive line, a not so good offensive line, and now you're putting the ball in Zach Wilson's hands. Let's talk about Zach Wilson here for a little bit. I'm a guy of second chances. And so I think he can really make the most of this. And I'll say this too, because I've been unbiased and realistic with other things with the Cowboys and the Trey Lance situation. There is value in a quarterback sitting behind a starting quarterback and learning that way. Zach Wilson was too young coming into the game, and that's why his rookie campaign didn't work out the way it did. But is there value in Zach Wilson spending an entire training camp with Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely. So, all this to say, I know a lot of people are looking at Zach Wilson and being like, well, the Jets tried to avoid that situation by trading everything for Aaron Rodgers. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think Zach Wilson will show up. I think he'll have a solid game. He'll try his best, but I don't think it's going to be as abysmal as maybe some people believe it may be. But I want to mention that the Jets have a sneaky double running attack. They got Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. Very similar to another duo that we know, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard last season. Look at this. Breece Hall had 10 rushes for 127 yards last week. And Dalvin Cook, I think he had around 50 yards. But Breece Hall had some really good runs, some really good breakaway runs. And Dalvin Cook, he's a big guy. I mean, he can get those yards. He's a little bit better than Ezekiel Elliott, in my opinion. Dalvin Cook can break those yards. So I'm really excited because even though a lot of people are looking down on this matchup now that Aaron Rodgers is outside of it, well, we finally get to see this Cowboys defense on a neutral field in an indoor stadium go up against, I believe, a pretty efficient running offense. Look, you talked all offseason, and I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. You talked all offseason about improving your running defense. You re-signed Jonathan Hankins. You spent your first-round draft pick on Mozzie Smith. Here we go. You cannot allow the Jets to remain in this game by running the ball. Because frankly, that's going to be the way that they get their foot in the door and try to win this game. They're going to run the ball, kill the clock, and you know their defense is going to get a few stops against the Cowboys. There is a game-winning game plan for the New York Jets to defeating the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys have to do everything that they can to not allow that to happen, and that starts with the running game. They can easily stack up yards against the Cowboys, and that's why I'm hoping, and that's why I think us fans are very excited to see this game, is there is something on the table to analyze for this Cowboys defense. We know they can get after the quarterback. We know our secondary is really good. We know we're stacked there, but run defense. The run defense has been the ghost to the Cowboys for so many years. And if you look at all those deep playoff runs that we were trying to go on, when we got knocked out in the wild card from the San Francisco 49ers, when we got knocked out by the Los Angeles Rams in a divisional round a few years back, you look at the run defense, that was a prime example of why we didn't advance. So this, even though there's no Aaron Rodgers, we get to see this run defense. And if they can hold them on 100 yards, boom, game. And we would have taken that next step as a defense. But let's go and jump on him. These are my defensive predictions. They're a little bit more specific this week, but my defensive prediction starting off is I think Micah Parsons, number 11, gets a strip sack. I think he comes around and boom, knocks that ball out of Zach Wilson's hand in the pocket. My other defensive prediction is I think DeMarcus Lawrence, the tank, I think he has a big game. Now, when I say big game, I'm not talking about like 2 or 3 sacks. That would be really cool. But I think he's going to be instrumental in stopping this offense and its run game. I think it's going to be really fun to watch him stop the run, block Shed, get in the way, stop Breece Hall, stop Dalvin Cook. He's going to be essential if the Cowboys want to win on Sunday. Next up, I do believe we get our first Diggs interception of the year. And I think Zach Wilson's going to launch that thing down the field, and Trayvon Diggs is going to come down with it looking like a wide receiver, and he will have his first interception against the New York Jets in week 2. And last but not least, I think this defense does a pretty solid job in week 2, stopping the run like I mentioned, but most importantly, not letting Zach Wilson get off to a good start. I believe the Cowboys defense holds the Jets under 20 points, which leads me to the offense, because if you hold the defense under 20 points, your offense just has to score 3 touchdowns. And if you can score 3 touchdowns, you win the ball game. So with that being said, I'm not looking for a high scoring offense on Sunday. I'm looking for something boring, simple, just time consuming. I got to touch on basketball for a little bit. One of my favorite teams growing up were the San Antonio Spurs. They were probably one of the most boring teams to watch. No flash. It wasn't sexy, but guess what? It won games. That's what I'm looking for in this offense, in this game, in this season. I'm looking for Dak Prescott not to throw for 4 touchdowns. I mean, heck, if he throws 4 touchdowns, I'm going to take that, obviously. But I'm not looking for him to throw 4 touchdowns. I love the game that he had in week 1 against the New York Giants, where no touchdowns, no interceptions, didn't turn the ball over. To me, that's the perfect night for a quarterback. And if you want to get in your feelings about that and how we pay Dak that much kind of money and he should be doing this and that, well, look at Troy Aikman's stats when he was playing in the Super Bowl for us. Look at those Super Bowl seasons. Troy Aikman wasn't throwing 300, 400 yards. He wasn't throwing 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. No, in fact, he handed the ball off to Emmitt Smith, and he didn't turn the ball over, and he had receivers like Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek to throw to, but most important of all, he relied on that defense. So Dak Prescott doesn't have to win this game. And that's where I'm going to start with this offense. You can't be sexy. You can't be cute. You got to be dull. You got to be boring. You got to check it down. If there's not a pass, if there's not an open receiver, that's fine, Dak. Throw the ball away. Throw that ball into the turf. Let's live another down. Let's play the possession game. Kick that ball off. Punt that ball off. And let your number 1 defense get the ball back and play that possession game and win this game in the least exciting fashion. If Dak throws 2 interceptions, if he turns the ball over more than 2 times, the Jets have a really, really high chance of winning this game. That's the only way that this team, that the Jets, find a way to win against the Cowboys, is if the Cowboys lose and more or less the Jets winning the game. And, I don't want to just pick on Dak and say that if we lose, it's going to be because of Dak. No, it's going to be about, just not poorly executing and playing poorly. I'm looking at Tony Pollard too. If he fumbles the ball, and he did have a fumble on Sunday night, and games like this makes me miss Ezekiel Elliott a little bit because it was so rare when number 21 fumbled the ball. I know he had that one season, and he had like 3-4 fumbles, but for the most part, we know Zeke never fumbled the ball. So we can't turn over the ball here. We can't make we can't commit penalties, false starts, holding. We can't dig ourselves in a hole. I'm not the one to throw the term trap game around, but the only way that this game is lost by the Cowboys is if the Cowboys, in fact, lose it with turnovers, penalties, if they shoot themselves in the foot. If they hurt themselves, the Jets will win this game the same way that they won against the Bills. The Bills had so many turnovers, and the Jets found a way, and they won the game. So, a couple of predictions here just to get started off. I believe the Cowboys score on their opening drive. Now, these aren't my official offensive predictions. That's going to come later here in a few minutes. But I just want to start there. I think this offense is going to look good. I think there were some things in the second half of that New York Giants game that I really liked. I love the route design. I love the play design. And I loved how Dak Prescott looked pretty confident slinging that ball, even in that wet weather. So I do believe we opened the game with an opening drive. Touchdown, and we start the game that way. Now, that doesn't mean that Dak's going to go 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I just believe that the offense starts hot like that, and I think it's going to be a battle throughout the entire game. But let's talk about this. This Jets defense is the real deal. They had 3 interceptions, all from one player, the safety Whitehead. They had 5 sacks, and they allowed 13 points. So if you think, look, it can happen. Cowboys can put up 30, 40. It can happen. I'm not saying that it won't, but I'm saying it's highly improbable that it will. This Jets defense was built for a deep playoff run. And they had that in mind when they went for Aaron Rodgers to get him as his quarterback. But look at those stats. 3 interceptions, 5 sacks, 13 points. And honestly, that's not all because Allen was just overthrowing the passes when they were playing on Monday night. We have to give credit where credit is due. The Jets did some things schematically that were successful against the Bills. And that led to 3 interceptions, 5 sacks, and less than 20 points with 13 points total. So the Cowboys offense, I think they're going to have a tough time. And right now, as I make this video, Brandon Cooks, he's not practicing. He has a knee injury. So I'm going to go into the assumption that Dak Prescott's going to go in without his third weapon. I believe Brandon Cooks is going to sit out this game. As I make this video, that's what I believe. If he plays Sunday, great, awesome. That's going to open the field for Dak. But then that's going to bring in Jalen Tolbert, and you're kind of putting Dak in a similar position that he was last season with not having that number 3. So I don't really like that, especially against a good defense like the Jets. But speaking of this Jets defense, I want to talk about this. I think how Dak Prescott responds and how he plays on Sunday is a little glimpse into a Cowboys 49ers matchup, and maybe even a Philadelphia Eagles matchup, because I think this Jets defense is underrated. I think they're solid. I think they're really good. And I think they have a little bit of a glimpse of the 49ers defense, and that's no surprise because Coach Robert Saleh for the Jets came from the 49ers, so that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. But the way that we've been critical of Dak, the way that we've been evaluating Dak and saying, well, Dak, now you have all your weapons. Now you got a good defense. I think all of that rhetoric, all of that we've been talking about comes into factor in this game. I think if Dak goes out there, throws 2-3 interceptions, I'm going to be honest, I don't like that. But if he goes out there and kind of plays the game that I want him to have, where, maybe a touchdown there, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, low yardage, keeping the ball away, Dak doesn't have to go out there and win this game. He needs to understand his part in this offense and on this team now. This team is ran by this defense. This team is not run by Dak Prescott. You play to the defense and you play the possession game. If Dak starts forcing throws and trying to get into the rhythm and force things, that's not what I want to see. An MVP season for Dak is him not forcing the ball, him throwing the ball away when there's no play. Just live for another down, live for another possession, because if you give those opportunities to the Jets, they will take advantage. I don't care who's your quarterback. Any team will do that, just not the Jets. But here's the thing. I'm looking for a big game for CeeDee Lamb. He had a big game against the Giants. He went 4 receptions for 77 yards on 4 targets. Talk about that wild efficiency. So I think he's going to line up with Sauce Gardner, and I think he has a really big game. Nothing about Sauce Gardner worries me with that one-on-one matchup between CeeDee and Sauce Gardner. So I expect CeeDee to have a big game. And like I said, biggest thing, do not turn the ball over. I'm not pointing fingers at Dak. Obviously, he's included in that. But don't turn the ball over. Don't commit penalties. No holdings, no false starts, nothing like that to get the game started. You got to execute well. You got to execute well. So here's my offensive predictions. I think the Cowboys score on their first drive. I really do. I think this offense gets off to a hot start and they score on the opening drive. I think CeeDee Lamb has a big day. I think he breaks 100 yards, and I do believe he gets his first touchdown of the season. Last but not least, I think Dak Prescott's going to go about 18 for 33. I think against this defense, it's going to be a little bit tough to throw to, so there'll be a lot of throwaways. There'll be a lot of checkdowns. That's understandable. I'm looking for 200 plus yards, but I'm looking for a really boring stat line from Dak Prescott. I'm looking for just a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. I believe he's going to throw for a touchdown. I believe the Jets are lucky enough to get 1 interception, but it won't throw the game out of balance. But those are my predictions for the offense. But last but not least, before we jump into my game prediction here, I believe this game is about the basics. It's about the basics. It's about executing. It's about being disciplined. And to me, that's a big thing that I want in a championship team. If you go out there, commit penalties, turn the ball over, I know you're not disciplined. I know you're not well coached. But I do believe the Cowboys are well coached at this point of Mike McCarthy's era. I think Mike McCarthy will have his guys ready. I think Dan Quinn will have his guys ready. And I think it comes back to the basics. Can you tackle? Can you execute your assignment? Can you execute the play? If the Cowboys can do those things, they will be in a really good position to win this game decisively. So going into week 2, my game prediction between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets is I believe the Dallas Cowboys win 24-13. Like I said, I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think this Jets defense has a lot to offer, and I think the offense is going to show enough to not turn the ball over and score some points, and I think this defense is really going to give a lot of opportunities for our offense as well. But last but not least, before I let you guys go, because you know I'm Tony Goat Romo, this game is going to be called on CBS, and that means Romo's in the booth for this one. Now, shout out to RJ Ochoa, because he's got to let me know if I'm correct on this stat line, but ever since Tony Romo has started calling games for CBS, for every game that he's called for the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys record when Romo calls the games is 11 wins and 4 losses. So I'm looking for another win here, and I think the Cowboys beat the Jets to move on to 2-0 and move on to week 3 to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you so much for each and every one of you for tuning in to another pregame prediction video. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content, and check out all my social media platforms down there. Other than that, I'll see you guys after the game. Go Cowboys!
Prescott, touchdown!